In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Welcome to the Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire podcast. Coming up on this week's show, we discuss the first week of the URC and the Scarlets Ospreys game in particular. Should Tipperick have been carded at half-time? What else did he get away with in the rest of the game? We look at Giles's card, was that a penalty try or not? And we look at Foxy, not a great week for the new captain. Where does he go from here? Then we look at Pembrokeshire Rugby. How close did Narberth come to a massive win? Are they Premiership quality? Do we need to throw all of our eggs into one basket with Narberth? How do we support Langham at the other end of the scale? A side that's struggling to put a side out. And finally, of course, the big question of the week. What fancy dress will Cardigan be wearing at St David's Rugby Club this weekend? Lots to talk about. It's a packed show. So let's get on with it. So here we go again then with the Scarlet Supporters podcast. Westerer is Besterer. Joining me again this week, I've got Martin. How's it going, Mart?
I'm good, mate. How yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. Now, we didn't realise that we were both at the ground on Saturday.
No, and we were only a stone's throw from each other as well, which is amazing. Yeah,
we were literally 2 gates over from each other and a couple of sections. Did you go and get anything from the food village or anything like that at half time?
No, I was unfortunately stuck on my own with the kids, so I was literally stuck in my seat for the entire duration, which wasn't a bad thing. But I couldn't get up. I couldn't go get a drink or nothing like that. I was just glued to my seat, hoping that the kids didn't play up.
Yeah, well, I was down the far end, so I couldn't be asked to walk. but
Half stadium.
Yeah, apparently. So the couple next to me went and got. So they left early for half time when all the fuss about the Tipperick and all that kind of stuff was kicking off. So they left to get food then, and they missed the first 5 minutes of the second half.
Jesus.
Yeah, and they came back and they were like, it's nearly empty, there's nothing there. So, yeah. So what did you make of the day in general then, mate, with the little ones? Enjoy it?
Yes, it's always a nice experience to go down. I mean, there was a bit of an incident in the barn beforehand with a certain side's junior teams, but probably the less said about that, the better.
Yeah, I think it's always one of those things, isn't it, when you kind of get let off the leash and they take it a bit too far, and when they start ruining other people's day. It starts to become an issue, like, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know entirely what you mean. Like, there was an incident where, obviously kids all on a bouncy castle and they ran behind and unplugged it. So obviously there's a lot of safety issues with that itself.
Yeah, and like I say, unfortunately, we know that they were a Pembrokeshire side. We're not going to name the side, but I'm guessing that somebody's going to be listening from one of those clubs that those kids are from. So, it's really about just enjoying the day. Because for me, when I used to take my boys up, and girls, we used to have quite a few girls in my team, it was a really, really big thing. They used to love it. And we went up quite a lot. I think one season we played 6 halftime games, including European games and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we played a lot of stuff, and they absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. My boy is 17 now, and he still talks about, that time when we were on halftime pitch and against I think it was Breve or someone like that in the European Cup. So Yeah, it's a shame to ruin it, but let's say we'll move on. We'll move on. But yeah, it was. Other than that, it was a good game. It was a good game. It was a good day, and the weather. This is why I think. So we'll talk about the game a bit later. But putting a big game like that on at the start of the season, the weather was nice. It was warm. It wasn't raining. Yeah, do you know what I mean? There was, you could hang around outside. For me, now I know we discussed it before, but for me, it was a success because it was like what 9,500 attendance. I think the capacity is like 14,800 or something like that. So yeah, if that game would have been at Christmas, yeah, it would have been 14,800. But I think whatever game we play at Christmas time will be a pretty full stadium because it's Christmas. You could play
Yeah,
Zebra.
we've got Dragons on New Year's Day, I think. Not 100% sure if we're home. I know the Boxing Day game is down over Locher this year, but I think the Dragons' home is New Year's Day.
Yeah, so I can pretty much guarantee that's going to be full. Do you know what I mean? So I think for me, opening game of the season, 9,500 fans there. I just hope that some of them turn up again next week. I hope all of them do.
Yeah. Hope there'll be a bit of a backup from that because we know it wasn't a win. Probably felt a bit more like a loss to some people. I mean, I know it did to me.
Yeah,
but it was a good enough advert. It did drag a bit, but there were some really exciting moments, and the crowd were really up for it. So hopefully, it was a good enough advert for those semi-regular attenders to come back next week.
Yeah, and I think those are the ones that you need to convert into regular attenders. I went up with two of my friends. I wasn't going to go. I wasn't going to go last Saturday because my wingman is away in college, and I couldn't get him home. And then some friends of my wife's said, so they're not rugby supporters at all. They're football supporters, and they moved down to the area. And they said, we thought we'd go up and watch the Scarlets. Can you tell us how to get there and where to park and all of that? And I'd been saying to the wife, I really want to go, but I'm not going to go on my own and look like Billy No Mates. So I went up with them, and their first experience of the Scarlets was a really, really positive one. And the thing, so they're from Newcastle up the north, and they used to, they rivalry, if you like, Newcastle versus Sunderland. And he said,
I was thinking Newcastle Emlyn for a minute. I wasn't expecting, North East England. Yeah, no. I was thinking, just a couple of 100 miles or so away, is it?
Yeah. No, they moved down proper. But they said their home rivals, if you like, Sunderland, he said there'd be about 3,000 police. And everybody would be segregated, and there'd still be fights, and there'd be, you wouldn't dare take your kids to those kind of games. So to be sat in a stadium, and the people the other side of them were Osprey supporters, and they had their kids, and they were talking, and they were, the kids were winding my mates up and things like that, and we were winding the people up in front of them, but it was all good banter, and they were. Yeah. Sure. Those are the kind of people that we need to convert into occasional fans, and then the occasional fans we need to convert into, the full-time ones. Yeah.
Well, that's the difference with rugby and football culture, but that's a conversation that will take a long, long time to go through.
We'll save that for the week when everything gets called off. So
again,
yeah. So before we crack on with the rugby stuff. So if my voice is a little squeaky and a little bit croaky tonight, I'm still suffering from Saturday's game. I was shouting a little. This is why my wife doesn't come with me to games, because I shouted that much. I've done myself hoarse. But so yeah, we had an email in last week. And I'll surmise it for a bit. It's Dave from Haverfordwest. So cheers for this, Dave. So it kind of says, nice to know your names, but doesn't sound very radio-ish, doesn't sound very podcasty to me. You should pick yourself some proper podcasty nicknames. So cheers for that, Dave. Thoughts on that?
I have no thoughts. I don't. It's like I've had nicknames in the past, not very flattering ones, so I'm not going to say them on here. It's never been something I've really wanted to pick myself.
I've never known a prop have a flattering nickname, my friend. So,
oh, thank you.
Although my son's one of his mates is a prop, and his nickname is Biceps. And then you see him and you go, yeah, fair enough. I get that one. I'm not going to argue with that. That's him done. But yeah, so maybe we'll put some thought into some really cool, funky nicknames. I was thinking that I did genuinely give this some thought, and I came up with all sorts of crazy ones. And I went, sure, the best one would be Griff. And then I thought, yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it at Griff. just
that is poor. That is poor.
It took me all night.
Oh, wow.
It took me all night and a bottle of rosé to come up with that, mate.
It took you all night to say half of your surname.
And a full bottle of rosé to myself. Anyway, maybe we'll return to that one in future. Maybe it needs more than a bottle of rosé to get me.
Yeah, I think we need to get some suggestions in because I'm useless with nicknames.
Well, we'll see if anybody sends them in. But yeah, by all means, do send us some.
Yeah, Dave from Haverfordwest, if you're listening again, send some suggestions in.
Yeah, or record it. Now I found this little button. Yeah, so if you go to the public site and all of that, there's this little button that says message. Yeah, and then you can record like a minute of speech, and then I can just put it in the show. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I've been thinking of how we get people to do community games, and how we get them to do like their match reports, because I know how these match reports work, right? Because I've done a couple, and I was drunk when I did all of them. And somebody from the local paper phones up the clubhouse at about 9 o'clock, and they say, can I speak to somebody who can do the match report? And if you're the one that picks up the phone and you had a couple of jars, you go, yeah, it was me. And then obviously you get your own name in there a couple of times. He had an outstanding game. He was fantastic. But you pretty much printed word for word. It was. I did it twice. And
were the slurs in there as well?
Well, I did it the first time, and I was like, there was literally nobody else left in the bar, and it was just me and a couple of the others, and it was like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And so I talk it through. And then when I saw it printed, I'm like, he's literally not changed anything. And then a couple of weeks later, same thing again. I thought, oh well, I'm having this. I was man of the match in that one. But so yeah, I thought let's actually, because the whole point of this this kind of podcast is to get supporters and fans involved, to let them know what's going on at their local club, and to get fans involved. So I thought that would be a good way of getting fans to just kind of, when your game's done, just give us a quick kind of, do it all off your phone. You don't need anything fancy. You literally just go to our podcast site off your phone, hit message, and bang, it can come in. So yeah, you can give us your match reports or nickname suggestions for me or Martin. Either or.
Takes no time at all. Literally, click a button, minute on your phone, done. Happy days.
I'm going to do it next week. Just come up with a couple for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
This is Peter from Temby. If you hear any of them, yeah, that's
it's you.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, last weekend was cup games for, well, apart from Narberth. Narberth were playing in the league, and everyone else was first round of WRU Cup. So playing in the system they started last year, where you play a little bit of a round robin first of all, and then after that it goes through to kind of knockouts. Any schools that you kind of looked at and thought that's well tidy, Matt? Anything there that stood out for you?
Yeah, I know you might have a different opinion, but the tie that I wanted to pick up on was Narberth's match against Bargoed, because even though it was a loss, 25-28 to a team that is literally pushing for promotion, it's going to be them and Neath all the way this season. I thought was incredibly admirable.
Yeah, and I think so. It was home for Narberth as well.
Yeah,
and yeah, to come that close on your home pitch, it's you always feel there's a little bit extra when you're playing at home. So, like you say, when you've got a big side like them coming down, big reputation, and you're pushing them that close, yeah, you kind of feel that that's one that got away for them, didn't you? It's one that they should have put them in.
It's like you just kick yourself after the game, knowing could have done this, could have done that. If that went this way, it's just.
Well, the game that I picked out was Harford-West. Mainly, it was a decent win, but it was a shutout as well. I think it was the only shutout that I saw. Down the scores, I've forgotten what the actual score was now, but
29-0. I've got.
There we go.
I don't know if you've got the same.
Probably. I remember it was a shutout, and to shut out anyone nowadays, there's usually at least a penalty. There's usually something. So to get a shutout for me is superb. So yeah, full credit to them. And there were loads of really, really close scores on Saturday. I mean, 1 point, 2 points. There were a couple of absolute pastings, but loads of really, really close scores. So considering first round of the cup, I think that's plenty of sides will be happy with their performance on Saturday. But couple of bits to pick up on. So Tenby against Hale Q. So did you hear about this one?
Yeah, this is one of the strangest things I've heard in rugby in recent years. To get to a Saturday morning and then get a phone call, we can't make it down. We haven't got a bus or enough cars.
Yeah, and that's just we were talking last week about how much effort and time and cost goes into putting a game on nowadays. So, and Tenby would have done all of that. They'd your beer order goes in 2 weeks before, and then it arrives that week, and you've still got to pay for that beer, and it's not going to get drunk, and then it's just it has impacts going forward, and it's. I don't know the reasons from Hale Q, but to not be able to get down is, I kind of feel for the side if you get let down by your bus company or whatever. But I've been there as a secretary of the club, and I know it's one of the things that you're absolutely paranoid about. I just need to make sure that it's are my players signed properly, and can we get to games? They're the two things that really keep you awake, and you check them and check them and check them. So yeah, to be in that bit where you can't get enough cars to get down, that's hard. And how do you rearrange that? There is no space in the.
No, you're looking at most of your boys they're gonna want to go out, watch the Welsh game and have a few, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And of all the weekends to come down, the ones when there's a Welsh game on, there's always a good weekend in Tenby. But yeah, it's it's pushing it, really, really pushing it. So, yeah, that was a bit of a pain in the arse. And then Langham, I feel for Langham this year. I really do. We said in one of our early podcasts how impressive it was that Langham even manages to put out a side. And so far this year, I don't think they have. They've had to withdraw from the cup. They haven't just said, we can't play this one. They properly withdrawn from the cup and said, we're not even going to try and raise a side.
I think the main thing with that is they're not going to try and raise the side to do the travelling.
Yeah.
Because there is some big distances in this cup competition. It's not just, when they play in the Division 3, it is mostly Pembrokeshire and a little bit of Cardigan based. So it's not too bad to get, your players ready for a 1 hour, 2 hour drive max.
Yeah.
But when you're talking 4, 5 hours, 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, getting together and going down, it's going to be hard work.
Yeah, and especially in Langham, because it's a really, really small place, and they kind of rely on players who kind of maybe aren't making the first team in other close by places. You
sort of rely on dual signing sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I think we probably should do more of that in the county to support sides like Langham and St David's.
I think it should be done all across Wales. I mean, if any club is struggling and someone's got too many players, the more boys playing rugby, the better.
Yeah, it's got to be. And, they've got a good youth system. They have got quite a lot of, for a little village of about 150, 200 people, they run cricket teams, football teams, rugby teams. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot going on there, and the people behind the club are really passionate about putting the side out and staying there. So, yeah, I think if they're struggling this year, then I'd say to other clubs, let's chuck a couple of players for a couple of weeks, because it's going to benefit everyone in the end. Having a side fold potentially, I don't know how close they are to it. It might just be a couple of weeks of a rough patch and someone's out injured or whatever. But if it means that one of your kind of second team players goes and plays for another club for a couple of weeks and gets a good bit of experience, but we stay with more clubs in Pembrokeshire, that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know how it's changed now with the youth rugby being dropped to under 18s, but for all my time in age grade, all my time being involved, you've had to have been 19 to play in the front row in senior rugby. It's been a legal requirement, so I don't know if that's playing any sort of effect on it.
Interesting. I don't know, because I played seniors when I was 15, 16. So I came. You were allowed to get away with it back then. You're not now. It's a lot more.
Oh, we're talking back in the 40s now, aren't we?
I was playing. It was black and white, mate. But yeah. So fingers crossed, Langham can work a way through it and can maintain. I think if they can start putting the side out, that's good all round. And the Cardigan game as well. Llanderby couldn't raise his side, so it's not just Langham. Other sides are struggling. Yeah, and you've got to think. When you look at what the WRU is doing, and they're doing a lot to promote corporate boxes, and they're doing a lot to promote, some of these fancy stuff that they do with it's £150 a ticket to come and meet players. I would prefer that they focused on keeping sides like Llanderby and Langham afloat.
Alive.
Yeah, because again, this is something we'll discuss at length in a future episode. But for me, that's their job. That's basics. That's 101. They're there to support sides like that. But yeah, so anyway, we're going to move on to
results.
We're going to well, we don't need to do results, Mark, do we? Because we did a results show on Saturday. I did the rundown on Saturday. That was not my fault if you didn't listen to it, Mark. That's it. I did the rundown on Saturday.
That's what's new. I knew there was something.
It was too complicated for you, was it?
Oh, yeah. Like you said, I'm a prop. I can't do more than one thing at a time.
Breathe
it's a
in
struggle
and
to
stand
breathe and talk,
If anybody wants to have a look at the scores and listen to the scores, I think the podcast is about 3 minutes long from last Saturday. It's on our Facebook page. So yeah, have a listen to that, and Stato can do it one day because cool.
I got to learn to record things on my own then, though.
Oh man, crazy stuff. So let's have a chat about the Scarlets game then. So what were you? I mean, first of all, just good to be back at the park, wasn't it? It's just good to be back on the pitch. Good to see the boys actually playing. What do you think of the game as a whole then on Saturday?
Yeah, it like I said earlier, it was a great experience. It's my first time at the park, since COVID began, and obviously there's always going to be niggles whenever you go anywhere like that. But it was a great experience just to be back there and to watch again.
Yeah, and I thought the atmosphere on Saturday was actually really good. I had I'm not going to say the pleasure, but I had a couple of Ospreys fans just in front of me. I mean, you could tell he was an Ospreys fan when he was walking up the steps because he had a top knot, a big bushy beard, 3/4 shorts, socks and sandals. I'm sure his name was Tarquin. And do you know what I mean? He just oozed Ospreys as he walked up the steps. And yeah, it was good banter with him through the game. Got quite heated when we were talking about Tipperick at half time. So
yeah, when he decided to headbutt McNichol, yeah, I imagine it would get a bit heated.
Yeah, so I mean, you probably had a better view of that than me. What was your view of that? That incident?
I'm quite low. I'm what am I? I'm row G, so I'm only like 8 rows back from the ground. So my eye line is not quite the best.
Mm-hmm.
But all I saw was you could see it was late. It was 100% late. No one can argue that.
Yeah.
But you could just sort of see McNichol go backwards, and you just thought, well, what was that?
Yeah.
And then when you see on the big screen, like, ooh, bye-bye.
Yeah.
That blue cap's not going to be on for much longer.
Well, say there were 2 Osprey fans, 2 mates in front of them. There was Top Knot Tim, let's call him, and his mate who was a bit more kind of normal Nigel. And normal Nigel said you could see McNichol's head go back, and he was convinced that it's a yellow minimum because there's been head contact. And Top Knot Tim was just kind of, no, load of rubbish. Oh, get on with it. Don't be such a wuss and all this kind of stuff. And for me, when you saw it on the replay, how the referee said, so I watched it a couple of times when I came back, and the referee said that starts on his chest and moves up to the head. And when I look at it, I go, well, his arm hit the chest, but his shoulder hit his head. It wasn't the arm that moved up and made contact with the head.
No,
it was his shoulder. And my initial instinct was that Tipperick's head made contact,
Yeah.
But it was definitely either the shoulder or the head made contact with McNichol. So, the referee makes a decision and things like that. But the bit that annoys me with that, there was conversations between supporters in the ground, and you're kind of in that bubble when you're in the ground, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we were all working off the same thing too. You can't hear what the ref's saying. You're just going off the video, replaying over and over and over and over.
And it's not exactly the best quality on the big screen.
No, exactly. And the sun was on it as well. So, you go with your gut instinct. And it was, this could be, everybody knew this could be a big call, because I'll talk about Tipperick in a minute and my contrasting opinion of his game to some Ospreys fans. But, there was that conversation, and it was perfectly amiable. It was heated, but, he's off, he should be gone. He said, no, he's not, he's fine. He was, but to then listen to the Scrum 5 commentary. I'm not sure it was Scrum 5 or whether it was commentary taken off Premier Sports, but it was then broadcast on Scrum 5 on Sunday night, because they put the Eddie Butler show at 6, and then they did the other show at 10. So when they replayed that commentator, and he was an Osprey, because you could hear him getting excited at the Ospreys, as Ospreys were moving the ball and what have you, he was getting all excited. And anything the Scarlets did was lucky they escaped, or, there was no compliment towards the Scarlets there at all. His first reaction was Johnny McNichol's play acting. He's made the most of that. Look at that. Get up. Yeah. The guy was sparked out on the pitch. He hit back. He went back. He tried to get up and couldn't. And he had to sit there and clear his head. And it was a good 30, 40 seconds before he got up. And even when he was running back, because play had carried on and Ospreys had kicked the ball at the pitch, even when he was running, but when he wasn't running back. He was
wobbly.
Yeah. And you can tell when you're a player, or when you've watched enough of this, you can go, he's going to go again. That was my gut feeling. He's going to go again. And if he goes again, that head impact on the floor was almost worse the second time. And knowing what we've been through with Cubby, that ended his career, So for Ospreys fans to start saying he's play acting, and then to see it repeated then on social media later, loads and loads of times, that just wound me up. Do you know what I mean? I was more angry with that than Tipperick,
Yes, I think it was incredibly disrespectful of Scrum 5 to broadcast that on the programme, especially knowing that McNichol failed a HIA following that incident. Yeah. He was concussed from it.
Yeah.
And you still played that. I mean, at the time, live commentary, you can't control what people say or people's opinions. But after the fact, and to still broadcast it just doesn't do well for the game, in my opinion.
Yeah. And this is after, so Dwayne's done his interview, and in that interview he said, Johnny's failed a HIA. So it's not like they didn't know. It's not like they didn't know when they were like, oh, we thought, this is a national broadcaster saying that the players...
We knew in the stadium. Yeah. We knew when he didn't come back on, he'd failed.
How do they still broadcast that? And then for Ospreys fans to be on social media, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I got a load of mates who are Ospreys fans. We all do. It's our cross that we bear. But most of them are, there's always a bit of ribbing.
Human beings at some level.
Yeah. But when it's something to do with safety, player safety, you've got to kind of put that to one side, and you've got to go, actually, this is more important. But I looked at a lot of the footage. I talk about Tipperick. I looked at a lot of the footage, and I felt it in the stadium as well, because there were a couple of turnovers, and I was looking at it and going like, he's... My instinct was that what he does is he goes forward, he goes beyond the ball, hits the floor he hits the ground, and then scrapes back and then catches a ball. So he's not supporting his own weight. And when I looked at it on replay, there were 3 or 4. So when Costello tipped him, which, yeah, that's a yellow. But the reason Costello tipped him is because he wasn't supporting his own weight. The reason he did that is because he was so far forward and he was hands on the floor. Yeah, and he was in the process of hands on the floor and scraping back. So, referees are not stupid. They will ping him. Well, in the second half, they did. They started pinging him, but it was coached. Yeah, that was coached because when I went back through the game, they were fullbacks, centres,
doing the same thing.
Yeah, and the technique is all there. They're forwards, they're hands on the floor, and then they're trying to do stuff from there. So,
it's been a good few years since they changed that. So for it to still be shown by an entire team it's a bit weird to see.
Yeah, but it's done so quick that as a referee, you almost can't see it. Yeah, but as a supporter, you're looking for it because you're going, there's no way he's got that ball, And there were a couple of key turnovers, Costello being one, and there's one where we were attacking. We should have scored. They turned the ball over. Exactly the same thing you've seen go hand. And to be honest, Ospreys were so far. You look in the first half.
They should have been 20 points clear, easy.
But if you look at the rucks in the first half, every single one of them, our ruck and theirs, over the top, killing the ball, slow in play. And what happened in the second half was Wyn Jones started enforcing it. I put out there a couple of comments at half time saying somebody needs to start enforcing the rules at the breakdown area because the ref isn't. And I watched Wyn Jones and he enforced the rules. they were Ospreys play. They were still coming over, but he was literally throwing them left and right. So they were going out to the sides and they couldn't get to the ball.
But that's like you were saying last week in regards to Jake Ball replace him. He was that person who would correct the other players.
Yeah, he was the enforcer. So Wyn Jones was doing it, and a couple of the others were doing it as well. But once the ref started pinging them, that's when we started moving that ball. And I'll be honest with you, I thought in that second half, there was a try not allowed. Johnny Williams that went through probably should have scored. And for me, now this is controversial. I'm going to say controversial. I don't think it's controversial at all. Because to me, it doesn't matter where you are on the pitch. The rule is the rule, and it doesn't matter where you are on the pitch, right? Giles's yellow card, yeah. So ball's turned over. It's broken play. If Giles doesn't slap that ball down, there's I think it was Tom Rogers and Corey Baldwin outside him with a clear run for the line, no defenders there at all. Giles was their last defender, yeah, because that ball was turned over. There was nobody in the backfield. There was nobody coming across.
And so it's not even just that, because he's been given the yellow, you have to remove him entirely from the equation.
Yeah. So if he's not there, actually, Costello's in with a straight run, but he wouldn't. He'd have given it. But do you know what I mean? And there was no discussion of that on anything. Everyone's looked at it and gone, oh, yeah, yellow card, fair enough. But there should have then been, well, hang on a sec. Normally,
but that's where Jonathan Davis should have been coming in and chirping in the ref's ear doing while he was looking at this video. That's his job as captain, to get in there and ask those questions at the right times.
Yeah. And say, was there anybody in the backfield there, ref? If he doesn't slap that ball down, ref,
he's got to run in.
Try. Yeah, we should have scored a try there, ref. So I think we left probably 3 or 4 tries out on that pitch, and I think if that had been later in the season, I think we'd have had them. I really do. I think it's just a little bit of rustiness there. But I think that if that game had been later in the season, I think we'll start running those in like we were last season, But,
yeah, well, we have got to cut the boys a bit of slack because, they have either only played one warm-up game or this was their first game in a lot of cases.
yeah.
So a bit of slack can be given.
Yeah. Well, I thought there were a lot of players really stood up on Saturday. Who were your kind of players on Saturday? Who did you notice the most?
The one I noticed the most was a negative, so I'm not going to say this yet. But I was quite impressed with Johnny Williams. He is just so abrasive, and he does get through a hell of a lot of work. I mean, if he could improve his distribution a bit more, I think he could probably end up with the Welsh 12 jersey.
It's interesting when you talk about that Welsh 12 because Llewellyn had a really good game for Cardiff on Saturday.
He did. Did you see his try?
Yeah.
Did they even go to a replay for that? Because I couldn't quite see if he was held or not.
I think he was over, but it looked to me like he bounced. The player wasn't on him, but he's a very similar player to Johnny Williams in that direct heads. It's coming at you and it's coming at you full pace. But Johnny Williams has got a step and go. He has got a bit that goes around the side. And, we saw with his try as well, when he turns the gas, who did he fend off? Baldwin, wasn't it? Scott Baldwin, the hooker. And he just...
Not an easy job.
No, that's 19, 20 stone of angry Welsh beef. But, he got sat down. And there's a lot of talk amongst Ospreys supporters about how good Hawkins was in the centre. He got shown out to play.
I didn't see Hawkins that much.
I think Johnny Williams did. I think he was the guy getting underneath his feet as he ran over the top of him. He was, he really put him to the sword. He did. So it was a tough introduction for him.
Well, yeah, he's still a kid. He's got tons and tons of potential. No doubt he's going to fulfill most of that. So you're going to expect when you're coming up against a player like Johnny Williams, who is as physical and in your face as he is, there's going to be times where you do come out second best.
Yeah. So, what were your negatives from the game on
My
Saturday?
negatives is our captain. I think it was a bit of a mistake to pick Jonathan Davis as captain for a second season, just because I don't think he's assured of that 13 shirt anymore.
Yeah.
It's just... Now, I love Jonathan Davis. The first time I saw him, it was the Junior World Cup back in 2008. I saw him, and I've been in love with the type of player he is since then. But there's just quite a few things that didn't go his way.
Yeah.
It's like the first Anscombe's try. If you rewatch the replay, you can see the ball go past him. Obviously, Rogers fails to make the tackle, which is unfortunate. But Foxy should have been covering Anscombe on the inside.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Giles, where he should have been in the year a bit more. And at the end of the game, we had, I think it was 2, maybe 3 penalties, in and around day 22 when we were 7 points up, and we didn't go for the 3.
Yeah. I think after those first 2, you could almost forgive the first 2. But, Osprey's defence was absolutely immense for that 10 minutes. And you'd have just gone, do you know what? We've got 6 minutes left on the clock. And I can waste another one just by taking a kick. And that may well put us 10 points ahead. 10 points ahead with 4 minutes of game time left. It changes the equation. And
and even if you miss the kick, you're thinking you're going to get the ball back. It's going to be a 22 dropout.
Yeah, you just make sure it's dead, isn't it? Yeah, and I agree. It's a hard thing to do, but I think we as Scarlets, I think we went through it last year with Rob Evans, where somebody who we love Rob Evans. He's a fantastic player. He's a character. he was a decent player, and it's hard to turn around then and go, you're not quite the player you were. Do you know what I mean? You've lost a bit of an edge, either through injuries or age, or sometimes you just go off the boil, and it's hard to admit that as a supporter. Ospreys are going through it right now with Alan Wynne-Jones and Rhys Webb. Rhys Webb was shocking on Saturday.
I'll be honest. Shocking. I think the first half was the show of the two worst possible performances by Welsh Nines.
Yeah.
And I'm a big lover of Gareth Davies, but I don't know what happened. I was watching the warm-up. It was him and Hardy, box kicking back and forth. And I was thinking, I'm glad Gareth's starting by here, because Hardy did not put one kick tidy during the warm-up. But then the game come and just completely flipped.
But see, Osprey supporters just won't hear a bad word about Alan Wynne-Jones or Rhys Webb. And we were almost in that situation last year with other players. And I think now we're almost in that situation with Foxy, where we're going, we love you to bits, mate, but, almost pick your games, pick Connaught, Zebra, or maybe not Zebra, but do you know what I mean? It's, I think
you are better used as an influence to other players than as a player yourself at the minute.
Yeah. And especially, you can almost, Alan Wynne-Jones kind of gets away with it in the forwards, because it's not about pace in the forwards. It's about that relentless, can you take the ball?
It's the work rate, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's still got that. He has lost his pace, and he gave away oodles of penalties, but, he controlled the line out. That was one area of the pitch that we just, we were poor. We were really, really poor line out. In the first half, we were bad,
Yeah, but I think we played into that ourselves by letting Elias start with no game time under his belt.
Yeah.
I think we would have been better suited to put him on the bench, just to, let everyone find their groove first.
Yeah. But I think with Alan Wynne-Jones, he can hide in the forwards, but you could still see his influence around the pitch. You could still see him geeing players up. You could still see him shouting at them. And Foxy's a different player, but at outside centre, you need pace. You need raw pace. And we spoke pre-season about people like Corey Baldwin, and I actually thought he played really well.
Yeah, he didn't do nothing wrong from what I've seen, and he tackled his heart out.
Yeah. And
albeit on the wing, but still.
Yeah, but I'd like to see him, and I'd like to see Ryan Comby in the centre. I think he's big enough, he's strong enough, and a boot. Did you see his boot? Did you see his kick?
That was immense. That was immense. He's a lefty as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I didn't know he was a left foot. And he absolutely melted that. That was hour 22, and it was 10 metres inside day 22. That's a big old boot to have, But I just think we need to look now. We need to not put ourselves in that situation we were with Rob Evans last year, and just kind of go, this is coming. Let's just accept it's coming. And Foxy's just it's not about moving aside. It's just about that gradual bit about, the end of your career is coming, mate. And let's just
need to manage you a bit better.
Yeah. Bit of management. So yeah, that was last. Let's cover off a couple of 3-word reactions that we do on the Facebook page. So who did we have? So Andrew Cole must start better. Hugh Williams, Foxy looks slow. I think the general feel of the three. Well, we do 3-word thoughts, 3-word reactions. That's what we call them after the game every week, and it just it does tend to
sums
give
up
us
a game as much as you can.
Yeah, and it is good because sometimes you get some right ranty people on there, but I think people kind of the second half, it just kind of showed what we can do, and
What was it, like good second half? Like
yeah.
another one, bad first half.
Yeah, it was very much that kind of way. But we'll talk about the Scarlets and Ulster game in a minute for next week. But before we do that, we've got a couple of other fixtures that we need to let people know about.
Yes, we
So
do.
this Wednesday, Scarlets West, so that's the under-16s, are playing in St Clair's against Dragons Red. 7:15. Okay, so I think these are the kind of like the proper fixtures now with Scarlets West. So that's going to go ahead pretty much guaranteed. So that's 7:15. That's St Clair's on Wednesday, and then obviously we'll have a chat about Scarlet Ulster in a minute. Then who have we got now? So Championship, we've got Narberth are away at Bedwas.
And that's going to be a real cracker. Bedwas, finished 4th last year, 1 place above Narberth. And I think this is going to be a real test to see where Narberth are standing this season. They had a really good outing v Bargoed, like we said earlier. They lost 31-25 in the same fixture last year. So let's hope they can do one better now and really crack on.
Yeah, I'd say it would be good to see them improving. I mean, it would be good to see them have a bloody car park at the pitch. But, aside from that, it will be good to see them, start challenging and going back up where we think they should be. So,
Pembrokeshire, it does need someone in the Premiership. Maybe we should start, campaigning for, one team from every county in the Premiership.
Oh, let's not. Oh, that's a whole. This is going to be like a whole series of Christmas specials now, mate. You know that. there's just going to be a whole load of empty bottles of rosé and Christmas beer, and me and you ranting about this is what we need to do. But yeah.
Well, at least the podcast will go on forever.
Mate, the recording of it would go on forever. We never get to publish it because we'd still be there going, and another thing. So, Aberystwyth at home to Newcastle Emlyn. What you make of that one?
Hopefully, Aberystwyth can squeak out a win. I personally don't see. I think Newcastle Emlyn a little bit too strong, but with the travel involved, I'm hoping that maybe they're a star player or two light, and Aberystwyth come away with it.
Yeah, I think Newcastle have been playing really well the last couple of seasons, and you're always going to get a tough game with them. I don't know if being at home is going to make any difference to Aberystwyth, but it should be a good game, shouldn't it? It should be a good close game. So, yeah. Crymych away in Gorsinan.
Crymych have been doing awesome this season, and I'm hoping they keep it going. I'm really putting. I'll put my eggs in my basket with Crymych. They're going to do Gorsinan over.
Yeah, I think so too. I just think, like you say, momentum is there, and Gorsinan are a bit of a bland team. Do you know what I mean? They're always decent. There's never anything exciting about them. And this year, Crymych there seems to be a bit of a spark about them. So yeah, I got Crymych winning that one as well. So next is the first of the Pembrokeshire derbies, if you like, in Division 1. So Pembroke at home to Whitland.
Now, this is one where we're really going to see what the story is with Whitland, because they haven't. I know it's only 2 games in, but they haven't performed at all. They took a hammering at home from Ammanford on the weekend. So, we're really going to see what they've got available against Pembroke.
And Pembroke only just lost last Saturday. It's at home, and you do get that feeling with Pembroke that that there's improvements being made. 2 seasons ago, Pembroke would have been lucky to even been on the same pitch as Whitland, and now you just kind of feel that this is an evenly balanced game. There's not a runaway winner of this at all. I don't think, anyway.
No.
So do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go, that's a draw. There we go. I'm going to say that's a draw, but I think it's going to be a really close game. Really close game. But...
I think your nickname is going to be Fence, because you really are sitting on the fence here now.
Robin. I could be Robin, always sitting on the fence. Oh, yeah. You could be Batman.
I'm not going to say no to that. That sounds pretty good.
Division 2 then, another Pembrokeshire derby, Fishguard and Tenby in Fishguard. So, tough one to call this one again. Tough one to call.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Tenby've only had the one game, but it was that tight win against Mumbles. But, Fishguard had a really good weekend. So I don't know where to put myself.
Well, a friend of the show, Chris Sousa, had it's been on social media. I've seen the video. There is evidence there of him taking the ball, breaking the line, drawing the fullback, and giving a pass. So, and it went
a
on
lot of editing went into that video.
And to be fair to him, I think if you watch his video, he breaks the line, and he's so shocked at the fact that he's still got the ball and he's broken the line that he almost stumbles. He's almost shocked and just making sure that people are taking a photo. It was a good try, and fair play to Sush. He deserves it. I think home advantage will be key on that one. Just I say Fishguard pitch is just one of those places that nobody likes going to. So yeah, it's again another close game, but I'm calling that one for Fishguard. I am. So Milford at home to Ponteberem.
See, I always find Ponteberem are a mystery, because some seasons they're really strong and they're fighting for the title, and then the next they're way down the bottom fighting off relegation. Yeah. So I haven't quite seen where they're playing at this year. I haven't properly looked at the results, but this is the Pembrokeshire podcast, so Milford Haven all the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Haverfordwest away at Lampeter. I think Haverfordwest have got that one. I think.
Yeah, definitely. They had a disappointing game against St Clair's to Warpan, but they've bounced back. They nilled at Arman United. So hopefully this is Haverfordwest back and coming to their best.
Yeah. Larne at home to Abereyron. So that's kind of almost a Pembrokeshire derby, with neither of them quite being inside. It's the Pembrokeshire border derby, I guess, that one. But I think you've got to say that's an Abereyron win pretty much all day long, that one.
Oh, yeah. You can't see much evidence to say that Larne will really put up much of a fight.
No.
And Abereyron off the back of a what was it, like 60, 70 points on the weekend?
I think it was 55-5 they won, didn't they? It was a bit of a tonking that they dished out, and I can see them doing the same again against Larne, unfortunately. But there we go. Neyland at home to St Clair's.
Unfortunately, I've got to say St Clair's. I think they're going to go for a clean sweep this season. They've done it at Haverfordwest, so I don't think they're going to drop off anytime soon.
Yeah, and Neyland are always difficult at home, but I think St Clair's will they'll find their way around the outside. Another Pembrokeshire derby then, Pembroke Quins against Langham. Yeah.
Will it go ahead?
Well, I'm hoping so. It would be good. to see Langham put a side out, but if they do, I think the Quins have got their tails up. It was a very, very narrow loss in the cup, and their wins have been quite good up until then. I think it's going to be a tough season for Langham, but let's hope they get through it and they can start bouncing back. So, but yeah, Quins win for me on that one, and then we've got the North Pembrokeshire-ish derby, St David's at home to Cardigan.
Before we pick results by year,
I know where you're going on this one.
Cardigan going to do?
Yeah, so for me, I think Cardigan have got to go with kind of a superhero thing. I think that's the order of the weekend this weekend. I'd love to see Cardigan turn up as superhero, but not proper superheroes. Like Super Superman, where he comes dressed as a tin of soup, or something not quite superhero, but superhero-ish. But yeah, it's
I was thinking something a bit more simple, because the Cardigan, maybe come with some Welsh ladies with cardigans on,
They should all come in jumpers. That's what they should not allow cardigans, jumpers. That's what they should come in. But either way, I think Cardigan are going to give St David's a bit of a tonking. It's going to be a hard season for St David's as well, but it's always a good night out in St David's, so it's going to be enjoyable whichever way around they go. So yeah, that's that's the local bits done. I'd love to call more of them as home wins, as Pembrokeshire wins. I really would, but realistically at the minute, I just think Pembrokeshire Rugby we're starting to fight back. But let's say if there was, like you said when we started talking about it, if Narberth were a Premiership side, I think it would focus the mind a bit more for some of the players coming through, where you can play at that higher level. Yeah, at the minute, the impression is if you want to play at the higher level, you've got to go away. You've got to move away.
It's like Llandovery, Carmarthen Quins, or Connectly are your options at the minute, and that's no easy, especially when you're talking 3 times a week, if not more, for some of these teams.
Yeah, by the time you put, time in the gym and fitness and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I think maybe it would be interesting to see, there's all this restructure at the end of this season and teams going up and teams going down, and Christ knows, I think it's put everybody's name into a hat and see who comes out, and we'll put them in Division 1. But I think if Narberth can kick on and go up the divisions, it would be interesting to see what effect that has on Pembrokeshire Rugby. It really would.
I think the Scarlets can do for Pembrokeshire and Ceredigion included, with boosting players in the entire region, really, because like you said before, there used to be a bus coming through for games, and there just doesn't seem to be any involvement once you get past Whitland anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's, we'll talk about Scarlets and Ulster game in a minute, but I think if the Scarlets are serious about including all of the region, then that's the kind of stuff that we need to start doing again, and we need to start, supporting some of these local clubs, the likes of Langham, It's
like they've got links with all the colleges. They've got links with Aberystwyth. I can't even say it right now. Aberystwyth University.
Yeah.
So why can't we sort something out? Why can't we get more junior teams, more players involved?
Yeah. So anyway, let's have a chat about the Scarlets game. So Scarlets game then this Saturday, Ulster at home again. What's your thoughts on that one?
My thoughts are we're not going to see much of the ball. I think we're in for a massive defensive set. which I think will be good for this part of the season, just so we can see what sort of impact Gareth Williams has had. Like, we conceded early and late against the Ospreys, so that middle part of the game, defensively, we held up really well. But I think Ulster is another step up because they had a cracking win against Connacht.
Yeah, they did. But then even in that game, Connacht were in that game up until 5 minutes before half time. They were still. It wasn't a runaway game. Well, it was really the second half. A bit like the Dragons game. They were there until half time, and then it was the second half where I don't know if Connacht collapsed. It didn't look like they collapsed. It just there were a couple of lucky bounces, if you like.
Oh, it was a Stuart McCloskey show for me. He run everything.
So, see, for me, their forwards, their set piece, the Ulster set piece, just gives them.
It's the platform. Yeah,
it just gives her they don't really need to think about what they're doing at certain points of the game. They know what's happening. They know they're going to win a scrum. They know they're going to win a line-out. That line-out's going to be driven 5-10 meters. So yeah, I think we got a really tough task. Having said that, Ulster are vulnerable in defence. When they like a very, very structured game, and you could see when
they are a very well drilled side in that respect. They do like everything coming at them in an orderly fashion, which is, as like you said, it's generally been the weakness over the years.
Yeah, but you could see when even in that Connacht game, there were probably 2 or 3 tries there that Connacht should have scored, and it all came from broken play. It was once Ulster get past the first 1 or 2 rucks and set pieces. Yeah, you start moving into this bit where they start to break down really, really quickly. And if we can get quick ball off some of those rucks, I think, against the Ospreys never really created much against us. Other than that first, 5 minutes, I thought Anscombe was quite good, but like we were saying earlier, he picked Foxy. After
Foxy should have had him.
But if you look, he kind of ran at him a couple of times in the game because he had the pace to go outside him. So I don't think anyone's going to kind of get away with that again through the season. And Ospreys just didn't look particularly creative, and I'm not sure whether that was us shutting them down or they just lack of creativity. So I guess we'll see after the Ulster game, like you say, what impact has Williams made on the defence, and because it's going to get a stern test this weekend, a really, really stern test. But these are the games you want. These are the games you want. These are
the big games of the season. Your Ulster, Munster, Leinster, they are, and obviously now the South Africans coming in. These are the big games in your season, and you want to see your players really stand up and front up. I mean, for me, I would like to see some at least attempts at strike plays, because I don't think I saw a single one against the Ospreys. Even if it collapses, after first receiver, I'd like to see them try. Yeah,
and like we say, I think it's a second game of the season. But the bit I'm liking now is all the marketing blurb that you get about English Premiership of every week's a competitive week, and 7 sides could win it. Well, actually, if you look at the URC now, we win. Zebra nearly beat Leinster. Zebra should have beaten Leinster.
That last 10 minutes must have really been nerve-wracking.
But there were 2 drop passes, and if those passes stuck, they're in. And Leinster didn't look. They played in patches, so they might have come back, but Zebra looked good throughout that game. and Benetton absolutely put Glasgow to the sword. So, even Dragons, they took a bit of a kick in, but that was a second half kick in up in Edinburgh. And if they can put that first half performance right the way through the game, all of a sudden we got 16 really, really competitive sides. And I think that's what we need now with this URC and the South African sides, and everybody's kind of,
we need to build everyone up.
Yeah. And for me, it would be good to see another 9,500 people there this weekend. I think if we're going to go and watch a game this year, and you're only picking one or two games to go and watch this one, because don't underestimate the effect that the crowd has on you as a player. When you can hear that, particularly when you're warming up, and you're like, oh, if you're warming up and you're away from home, and you're like, oh Jesus, there's a lot of boys here watching today. It affects you. You can hear the buzz, you can hear the crackle around you, and then if that's your side, if you're at home and you've got 9,500 people screaming for you, you're a couple of feet taller, you can go that little bit more. So yeah, I think that as a crowd, as supporters, we underestimate the effect that we have. And I think given that first game that we should have won, I definitely think we should have won last weekend. I think the crowd may be what's needed for this weekend to give them that little bit of an extra, if you will be. I think that's what we need. We need a full crowd would push us through.
I think that's got to be the minimum for what the Scarlets are looking for. I think we should be looking to try and get at least 10,000. I know it's going to be a hard job, but I think we should be aiming to get 10,000 bums on seats every home game.
Yeah, and I think when you look at what some of the other sides are pulling in, some of the English sides, we play better rugby than they do. They undoubtedly, for all the hype and the, look at us, we're amazing because we play in the Premiership. It's not good rugby. It's
a lot of upper jumper stuff, isn't it? The physical battle is intense. I'm not going to take that away, but I don't see the same sort of attacking flair that we get in the URC.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to go now. We need to go, this is a good thing to go and watch. I think if they sort out the food village, that appeared to be the only thing that needed sorted out last weekend. But it's a really good all-round thing for everyone, and I'd love to see, like I say, 10,000 people there supporting the Scarlets. And I reckon it's hard to say which comes first. Does a winning side produce a 10,000 home gate? And if we had a 10,000 home gate, would that produce a winning side? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always one of them. You think, oh, if we sign this player, more people will turn up, and then that will help the team, or will the team win in? It's like we'll have to have a look at what the gates were like after the Pro 12 winning season to really see if that had an effect.
Yeah. But I think for this Saturday, I think it's so much about that forwards battle, which can sometimes drag a game down. But I think the forwards battle for us is to how quick can we release that ball to the backs, if that makes sense. That is the battle for the forwards. Ulster will be looking to take that ball forward and forward and forward and forward and really drive it tight. And we'll be going, well, thank you very much, let's spin it across the backs. And it's who wins the battles. Either their forwards will win or our backs will win. And I think that's the way it's going to go. Hopefully, it's going to be our backs. So if you were going to put a prediction on it, then let's do last minute predictions. What's your last minute prediction for?
My last minute prediction. I'm going to go with my heart over my mind. I'm going to say 24-20 Scarlets.
Yeah, I'm going to go heart over mind as well. In my head, actually, I think it's going to be really, really close. But yeah, I'm the same. I'm going to go kind of like 25-18, just so I can be different. But yeah, I think it's going to be a cracking game. And I think the more people we get there to enjoy it and, give the boys a bit of oomph, the better. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. Fingers crossed for that. So that's it, mate. We're done again. We're done for the
again.
week.
Another week down.
Another week done. And they said we wouldn't make it past week 1.
Yeah, Zoom is the problem. 30-minute recording. It's a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to sort myself out, and I'm going to have to actually buy a package.
No, don't do nothing like that. See if we can get some sponsorship first.
Oh, crack! Yeah, but it would come in as like free beer. So have some free beer and talk about our beer. Yeah, we could do that.
See if have a look around for some like IT companies, computer companies around. If they want to have their whatever, their 30 seconds on the show and just somehow give us free recording or something.
See, Martin's getting ideas ahead of his station there now again. We go and get sponsorship. Martin, absolute pleasure meeting you again this week, my friend. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we might actually be able to meet up at the park this Saturday, and we'll do a little bit of a recording for next week from the park. And of course, like we said at the start, if anybody else wants to do a little bit of recording for the show, whether it's your home game, your community game, or whether it's up at the park and you just want to tell us how you're feeling about the park, or indeed if you want to give Batman and Robin a better nickname, then by all means do.
Batman.
I can see Martin going to St. David's Rugby Club with fancy dress.
Never been before, it's worth it.
My friend, I shall probably catch up with you at the game on Saturday. If not, we'll have a chat again next week. All the best, my friend.
All the best. I've penciled you in. See you on Saturday, fingers crossed.
See you, mate. Ta-da. You have been listening to the Westerer is Besterer podcast from the Scarlet Supporters Pems team. You can follow us on Twitter on Scarlet Pems, find us on Facebook with Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire, or email us on scarletspems@gmail.com. And remember, West is best, but Westerer is Besterer. Cheers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.